Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be making another installment in the series that I call First Time Spins. And this is a series that I've been trying to do for 5 years now. I made the first installment in 2014. Wow, way back when. And in 5 years, I've only made 11 of these episodes. And that's got to change. And I promise this will be the last time that I make this kind of uh, what you might call prologue between each one of these videos because I've watched the past 11 volumes of this that I've had. And every time I start out saying the same thing, oh, I'm going to do more of these. I'm going to get it going. It's going to be a regular feature. I'll try to get better at that. Look, from now on, I won't be giving you this prologue. Okay. Anyway, there are I think 7 albums here that I've listened to, and I want to give you my impressions of them. These are first impressions, and in at least one case, I think it's a second impression, which I'll get into. Now, why did I start getting into this series more? Well, first of all, I got a brand new cartridge and needle stylus, and it's an Ortofon Concord, and I'm very happy with it. And I had the old stylus was pretty old, and it kind of wasn't giving me the best quality, so I didn't want to play too many more records for a long time. Now that I got the new stylus and I'm ready to go, I'm more into the records, and I'm going to try to keep this series up. So anyway, without further ado, here we go. Uh, First two I'm going to show are kind of vaguely Beatles related, if you will, but the rest of them are not. Okay, first up, this is an album by Linda McCartney, Paul McCartney's late wife. It's called Wide Prairie. A lot of people are saying Wild Prairie, and I've fallen into that mistake a couple of times myself. Um, and I absolutely support and enjoyed Linda McCartney's harmonies on the Wings albums, the things she did with Paul and his band. But I know I like a few songs that I'd heard before. Like I already know Cook of the House. I already knew Seaside Woman, Oriental Nightfish. But I was wondering how I was going to respond to the whole album. And I have to say, after the first listen, I really like this album. I mean, Linda is not the greatest singer, but there's something about her voice that I enjoy anyway. It's got a very down to earth, homespun kind of natural voice, but I really like these songs. And because Paul is her husband, was her husband, you can absolutely appreciate his input here, and the input of other members of Wings and people who work with Paul. Uh, from start to finish, I've enjoyed these. There's 16 songs. I've enjoyed this all the way through. Uh, but a real standout for me, there's quite a few really, actually, but the one I really want to talk about is a song called The Light Comes From Within. And that's, ironically, when I looked at the notes that come with this record, that's the last song she ever did in 1998, last vocal she ever did. Very, very good song. My favorite on the album, probably. And it's a shame that she was going to die later that year in '98. I didn't know that when I heard the song. It was after I read about it that I had that kind of appreciation more for it. And there's some covers on here, among them Mr. Sandman. Everybody knows Mr. Sandman, right? And the song Poison Ivy. Linda does a cover of that. Really recommended for people who like Paul McCartney and Wings, especially. Please do yourself a favor and give this a fair shot. Now, speaking of giving an album a fair shot, and of all the albums here, this is the one that I really have to eat a lot of crow with. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I mean as I go along here. This is an album called McGear. McGear is Mike McCartney, Paul McCartney's brother. So we just had his wife. Now we have Paul McCartney's brother. He was in a group that he called the Scaffold. And this just came out recently as a reissue. And I didn't buy the reissue. I had this one, it's a promo copy. And it's been sitting around for quite some time, maybe a year or two, maybe even, and I have not played it. Now, recently, in the last week or so, I did a show, and give a little plug for that. It's a show called Talk More Talk, and you can find their page here if you want to go over to it on YouTube. And it's a live video cast every couple of weeks. and we talk about certain topics. I was not prepared when they were going to talk about the reissue of the McGear album. Uh, I had never heard it, even though I had it for a while. I didn't really have enough time before I learned I was going to be on the show that week to really brush up on this, so I didn't have much to say. Now, that's the first part. The second part is when I was at my record store one day, they have a copy of this there, and I played it, and I got through the first side, which is 5 songs, and I only liked the last song originally. The last song on side one is called "Have You Got Problems," and that's the only one that really grabbed me. Then I turned the record over at the store and I heard the first song on side two, and I said, I don't like this either. This album did not grab me. Now, I knew from hearing about this on the Talk More Talk video cast that this is an album that everybody says is very quirky. You got to give it some time. It doesn't always grab you right away. But I've always been of the belief that if an album or even a movie, you could really relate this to motion pictures as well as music. If it doesn't grab you right away, how many times are you supposed to rewatch a movie? How many times are you supposed to replay a record album before you get it? You know, I even made a video years ago on that. How many plays before we get it? Life is too short, right? So, I mean, I'm going to make this long winded, but it should be worth it in the end if you stick with me here. Um, really didn't like this album, and I was on some of my live discussions, and I was telling people like Tom Hunyadi, how you doing, Tom? I know Tom's a Talk More Talk host, and he enjoys this album. He's a Paul fan. Um, the thing about it is, I was saying that I really dislike this album so much. I'm going to sell it. I said I'm going to get rid of it, and the thing that's weird about it is that Paul McCartney is all over this album, and so are people from Wings. I mean, you have Paul and Linda McCartney on here. You have, out of the 10 songs, McCartney had a hand in at least 9 of the 10. He wrote one song himself, 2 songs. I'm sorry, 2 songs Paul wrote himself. The other of the ones I mentioned, he co-wrote with his brother Mike. You have Denny Lane on here playing guitar and on harmonies. You have Linda on here. Paul produced the album. You have people like, it says Brian Jones sax. Are we talking about the Brian Jones? I don't think so. But we'll find that out. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But you have also like members of Wings on here. You have Denny Sywell, who plays the drums on the song Leave It. Yeah, we have Derek Taylor listed. We have there must be other people. I'm just Jimmy McCullough, the late Jimmy McCullough on guitar here. You get the idea. It's Paul's got his stamp all over it, but yet I didn't really. It didn't sound like a Paul related album to me at all. I didn't care for it. Didn't think Mike McCartney sang particularly well. Now anyway, that's the first half. The other half is now this morning, I sit here at home. I put this album. I said, let me listen to this where I left off. Let me listen to the rest of side two because I was told by Tom Hunyadi that side two is actually the better side, just where I left off. You know, I kind of like didn't. Side two is where I quit. You know, I only listened to the first song on side two. So I said, let me continue where I left off. And I put it on. I said, this is good. I listened to side two and I enjoyed every song on it. You have Rainbow Lady is a standout. I really like that. Simply Love You, really good. Giving Grease a Ride is a real heavy rock that's got some excellent guitar work on there. And The Man Who Found God on the Moon, the closing song, was really nice. I said, well, wait a minute. If I enjoyed it, is it just that I'm in a different mood? I don't know. So I flipped the album back over to side one, which I previously did not like, that I was listening to back at the store. And this time it was a new album. Totally different experience. The opening song, Sea Breezes, which is written by Brian Ferry, actually was really intense. I like the intense, deep feeling it has to it. I really enjoyed that. Then every song I was starting to like, What Do We Really Know? A McCartney penned song. Paul McCartney, that is. I like that. The song Leave It, I really like that. And it's got an interesting, I'm not good technically with music. Is it the horns? It's got interesting horn sound in it. Have You Got Problems was the only song on the album that I really liked the first time I listened to it, and this time Have You Got Problems was still good. Now I'm saying the only song on this 10-song record that I did not care for was the song called Norton. Hey, Norton. Norton. No. Norton. The song Norton starts out very good musically, but then it gets really stupid, in my opinion, in the middle of it. But I like 9 out of 10 songs. I'm so glad I didn't trash this. Now, this is always a common theme when we talk about records and everything. You can't always gauge something by one listen. I get that. I agree 1,000%. But I always say, again, how much time do we have? Can we listen to songs over and over and over? Can we play records multiple times till we find that it clicks for us? Yeah, that's your decision. Life is not really that long to play 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 albums multiple times. I'm glad I did with that one though, and I will be keeping it. It's a lesson for me to learn. But please, folks, in the future, everybody's going to be telling me, "Oh, you got to play it again. You got to play it again." And again. It's like, look, not every. The reason I gave this another shot was because it was a Paul McCartney, uh, and Wings kind of album too. It had like an interest for me. There has to be an interest, a reason for me to go back to a record. Anyway, now we have a classic album that I'm very familiar with most of the songs, but not all of them. This is the first time I've ever played Jimi Hendrix, Jimi Hendrix Experience. Are You Experienced? First time I ever played this all the way through. Now, of course, stuff like Purple Haze I knew, Manic Depression I knew, Hey Jude, Hey Joe I knew. I almost said Jude. Force a Habit, folks. Hey Joe, The Wind Cries Mary, Foxy Lady, Are You Experienced? But I did certain songs, the few songs in between I hadn't heard. Love this album, folks. This is one of the classics that I will certainly be putting in my top album list of all time. Anytime from now, when people say to me, "What are your top 5 albums?" Well, 5 albums. That's loose talking on my part. But it'll be one of the best albums of all time, one of my favorite albums in my personal list from now on. Really fantastic. And in the day, it must have really blown people away and blown your mind. I don't do drugs. I don't even smoke pot. But I imagine if you're really high, this is even a better experience. Just really, it just is the epitome, the perfect template for psychedelia and that era rock. Now we're going to go somewhere completely different. Okay, Annette Funicello in Pajama Party. This is the cover is what got me. Yeah, I'm a sucker for pretty girls, and Annette Funicello was in Mickey Mouse Club among other things when she was younger. But then she started doing these. A lot of them are crummy. I've seen some of these beach blanket bingo movies. A lot of them are crummy. I didn't like. But I said, let me pick this up. It was cheap enough. And I played this and I enjoyed it. I'm not going to say anything here as a standout. This is the kind of album that I say you could put on in the background when you're not really paying too much attention. Just listen to it. It's got a lot of good 60s guitar, that surfing kind of sound on it. If you like that type of 60s stuff, this is right up your alley, or should be. Some stuff better than others on here, but overall a pleasant vibe to that era. This is a 1964 release. Okay, next up is my first time listening to a Bee Gees album all the way through. Now, when it comes to the Bee Gees, I enjoy the disco Bee Gees. I enjoy Saturday Night Fever, that era of Bee Gees. Now, there's one of my good friends and all-time favorite fans, if you will, down in the comments. J.D. Thompson. J.D. Thompson is a big Bee Gees fan. As a matter of fact, the way she feels about the Bee Gees is how I am with the Beatles. So she's a big Barry Gibb fan too. So I'm trying to get into the Bee Gees a little bit, giving them more of a chance. And this is the first effort, the album called Idea. And my first experience was generally a pleasant one with this. Um, Let me just take it out, see if I can read this a little better. Of the songs on this album, I really enjoyed Let There Be Love. I enjoyed Kitty Can, which is good. I enjoyed I've Got to Get a Message to You, which I've Got to Get a Message to You was one of the songs that I'd heard before. I knew I was familiar with that one. Idea is a really good, 60s era song, kind of psychedelia, and the video was good. If you ever, or the promo film, want to see the video, you'll like that. I also enjoyed I Started a Joke, which I had already known. That's a classic that I know. I gotta say, already I was saying I think I like Barry's singing Barry Gibb better than Robin Gibb. But although I don't mind Robin on I Started a Joke, there's one song on here, I'm sorry, I think it was absolutely putrid. It made me sick. It made my skin crawl. It was the song called In the Summer of His Years, where Robin Gibb sings, "He's the one who's going like that." Boy, did I hate that song. And otherwise, pretty good first impression of an album that I'll be playing again by the Bee Gees. Okay, now we're going to talk about somebody from the modern era. Oh, isn't that weird? You know who I'm going to show, people who are familiar with me. The modern era, there's not a lot of stuff I listen to, but I did discover this young woman, Elle King. And yeah, I'm going to give her more. This is her latest album that came out in 2018 called Shake the Spirit, second album by her. And yes, she's Rob Schneider's daughter. A lot of people, she's Rob Schneider's daughter, the comedian, the actor, the comic actor. Yeah, but God, did I like this album? I mean, but again, it just goes to show you. I liked her debut album, which was called Love Stuff. That Love Stuff is one of those albums that grabbed me right off the bat. I liked it right away. This one took two listens. At first, I wasn't digging it as much as the her first album, but when I gave this a second listen, ta-da, there we go again. It all clicked, and there's so many good songs here. Baby Outlaw, the hit single, I guess you could call it, Shame, is very good. Uh, Naturally Pretty Girls, It Girl. I like the whole album all the way through. She writes her own music. She sings with a whiskey kind of voice, bluesy, rocking. Uh, I just love the sound that she puts out. There's a song on here which I think may be my favorite song on here. If you want to check out one song, look on YouTube now. Look it up. It's a song called "Runaway," not to be confused with the Del Shannon classic. It's not that cover. It's her own song called "Runaway." That's my favorite song on here, and I just get goosebumps thinking about it. I mean, how often do I get like this over a new artist? You know, she's really good, I think, and this is a really good album. Okay, last album up I'm going to show here is an album by Bobbie Gentry, who came to fame with Ode to Billy Joe. Ode to Billy Joe is one of my all-time favorite songs. Emotional, deep. It has hidden meanings. I love Ode to Billy Joe. That song is not on this album. Ode to Billy Joe is from an album that has that title. That's the name of the album. This one here is an album that came out in 1970, a few years later, and I enjoyed this album too. So we're doing all these albums here. I pretty much enjoyed that I'm doing on this installment. Uh, the song "Fancy" is written by Bobbie Gentry. Really love that song, and she does a lot of covers on here, like "I'll Never Fall in Love Again," which was made popular by Dionne Warwick. And then there's something in the way he moves. Sound familiar? And James Taylor. That's very good. Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, the Burt Bacharach tune. She does here. If You Gotta Make a Fool of Somebody, Rudy Clark song. Wedding Bell Blues, made famous by the Fifth Dimension. She does her take on this. An enjoyable album all the way through. Love her voice too. And they're kind of similar in voices, I think. Elle King and her got that kind of like, I don't know what you call it, slightly rasp, maybe, if you will. Love it. So there's my installment, folks, of First Time Spins, and I'll say it again at the end, folks. I got a new stereo stylus cartridge, and hopefully I'm going to be putting more albums on I haven't heard. Whether I make another video quickly or it takes a long time, it takes years or whatever, or weeks, whatever it is, I'm not going to make that announcement again. You won't hear it again. I'll just get into the video. Thanks, everybody, for spending the time with me.